Hello, hello, hello. Today we make the legendary 臊子, which is essentially some version of ground meat. So I'm from Sichuan, and everyone in the household has 臊子, okay? So it's the first thing you want to make when you arrive in a new apartment and don't want to cook for a long time. So we need the ground meat, and we need, can you see? Sugar and large amount of really cheap soy sauce, which it's somewhere. I'll get it later. So ideally, we'll just cook it in the pan. I'm using cast iron today because my non-stick, can you see, it's broken because see this hole here where the Teflon is peeling off. I don't know if Teflon causes cancer, but people say it does, so it's best to be on the safe side. Oh, it's just some kid. I thought someone died. Dang, that sounded scary. So these ground meat are actually very they're low quality meat, and they're very dirty in a way that they have a lot of blood in them. So what we want to do first is to just boil them to make sure it's clean. It also has another purpose of separating it, which is going to be important because if we cook it as it is, it will turn into kind of a patty hamburger kind of a thing. So what we do now, we just want to boil them in some water. You don't need this on high heat, just keep it on medium or low. So the idea is you want to do your best to separate the meat, okay? Just separate them. So I think this step can also be done just as it is in the non-stick pan. It's just I'm forced to use a cast iron. So ideally it would be just one pan and you do it inside the single pan, but the cast iron is really heavy and this handle is hot and I can't actually properly drain it. So that's why I'm doing it in this one here. Okay, so you want to probably turn off the heat now. What you want is to have a clean separation, okay? And if you do it in the pan as it is, so I'm heating this one up, okay? If you do it in the pan, you can just drain it, but for now, I think we'll just kind of scoop them from here to the other side. Okay, so after you kind of rinse the meat a bit, you see how it helps it separate. It's actually not too dirty. We'll try to drain it, I guess. So I'll be back. So the washing liquid actually should smell, if it's just like straight up ground pork from the supermarket, it's really bad quality. It actually smells kind of bad. So I wouldn't skip this step per se, unless what you could do at the butcher shop is you could pick a particular meat and ask them to grind it for you, and that tends to be a much better quality. I think I'm almost finished draining it. So I think I need to explain more what shaozi actually is. Is a kind of a condiment. Like you don't eat it as a main dish. It's kind of like it's just a thing you put on top of your food to give it a meaty flavor, that kind of a thing. So it's normally just kept in a jar, and whenever you're eating some food that you think is too, unsavory or something, you will scoop a little bit of this on it. So think of it as kind of a addition to food rather than a food item itself. All right. So can you see this? It's pretty nice, right? So now we want to put a fair amount of oil in the pan. You don't need to put too much oil because fat will actually give off a fair amount. And we'll just put this meat onto the oil. And I pray to God it doesn't stick to the bottom. It doesn't seem like it did. So this is all very good. I want to turn the heat lower. Can you see? Let me move it up a bit maybe. Yeah, okay, that looks perfect. Okay, so what we want to do is adding the flavoring now. And this thing, so bear in mind this is more of a condiment item, so it's going to need a lot of flavor. So we can probably start off by adding a gratuitous amount of salt. Actually, that wasn't too much. Let me find my cheap soy sauce. So for stuff like this, you will regret using the expensive soy sauce. This is expensive. You will go with a cheap soy sauce. See, this is really cheap. And the smell of this is actually gross at the moment. It's just like meat that hasn't been cooked properly kind of a smell. But it will turn extremely tasty smell after we cook it. So we're just pouring a big load in there. Okay, that's probably good. So try to mix them up. So this is why I strongly recommend doing it not in a cast iron, because soy sauce will stick to things, and we'll also add sugar which also stick to things. So if you don't do it in a non-stick, it's gonna be a pain. I think I would regret cooking it in here, but between cleaning the pan and the canister, I pick cleaning the pan. Okay, so make sure they mix evenly. You see how boiling it helps it separate. If you don't boil, you end up with almost like a hamburger patty kind of a thing that's actually extremely hard to separate. So what you want is definitely use some water to boil to give it a good wash so that the pieces separate. Okay, looks good. Now we'll add some herb or flavoring. I have, can you see, 13香, which is a Chinese Muslim kind of a herb grind thing. You could use anything like dried, I don't know, parsley or dried herb or thyme, or you could buy these like poultry seasoning from supermarket. Just open your cabinet and find some like dried herb seasoning in there that you don't use anymore or something, and just dump like a big load in there. See? Just like that. I don't really care how much you put in there, but as it stands, meat is actually a kind of a boring flavor, so you want to kind of spice it up with something more exciting. So I don't even know what that spice tastes like, but it will definitely be better than just soy sauce. So make sure you have some kind of herb in it. The dried dried ones. You could do fresh ones too, just make sure you chop them. So they look like the flavoring is distributing. So now we'll add in the sugar. And so if you add too much, it'll be sweet, but if you don't add enough, it won't be tasty. Exactly how much you should add, I don't know. Just eyeball it. I don't know. I think the best indicator is you should taste it. You should add and try to taste it and see how that tastes. If it tastes good, then it's good. That's always a better measurement than prescribing exactly the amount beforehand, because by tasting it and adjusting, you essentially have like a PBE controller, right? You can use that to, project the flavor rather than computing it beforehand. So that's what we do. Give it a taste. Really, really salty, which is good, because as I said, this will be condiment. This won't actually be a dish of its own. So this is a salty little meat thing that you add to your real food. So what you are seeing now is, see the water, they are beginning to evaporate, or they already sort of finished evaporating. And the boiling point for water is much lower than the boiling point of fat. So what you're seeing here on the bottom of the pan is going to be more and more fat and less water in proportion. And that's what you want. You want to kind of just use the water to kind of dissolve everything and make sure the flavor all get mixed up into the meat. But what makes it tasty in the end is a frying of these meat inside the fat. So you definitely want to cook it and overcook it, and extremely overcook it until they become nicely dried and fried up. That's when they're really, really tasty. So you want to be patient and keep cooking it until they reduce all the moisture. I think I want to add more sugar because it was a little bit too salty. Again, eyeball everything and use taste as a judgment. Especially these soy sauce, when you first buy them, you don't exactly know how salty they are. So there's no way for you to judge how much to put in there. Alright, feel free to skip around. It's just gonna be more cooking of the same thing. Actually, you know what? I'll preview it. So to prevent burning, you want to turn the heat to medium low and have it cook slowly. I don't think the guy who played guitar also sang at the same time. I don't know. Maybe the Beatles is actually extremely good and they can do it. Seems like a hard thing to do. Just let it cook. Just let it cook. So now they're beginning to turn more brown and golden brown. Golden brown. Huh, maybe I should do that song. How does it go? Okay. So don't keep the heat on high, okay? Keep it on medium or medium low so you don't burn it. But you definitely want to reduce all the moisture out of it. Many more born, I want. My mother was a tailor. You, my new blue jeans. My mother once again. Oh, no. And the only thing again with me is a suitcase that is strong. And the only time you should stop cookies is when they're nice and brown. Oh, mother, tell your children, do what I've been done. Spend your life in six misery in a house of rising sun. And you're on the train, going back to you. see how they are nice and brown. Now we eat it. Mmm. So very incredibly salty. So that's what you want. It's a condiment. So what we do now, we will transfer them into a bowl. This one. And we can just stick in the fridge where they can store for up to easily a month and a half without going bad, because first of all, it's really dry. Second of all, it's really salty. So really nothing can grow in it. Like all the bacteria that would like to eat this thing, they won't be able to survive. And I'll save a bit for noodle, which is probably the next video. Alright, let's take a look. Woo. Can you see? Nice, even. Here's in the pan. Here's in the bowl. Okay, so this is a extremely good condiment. Earlier I used it in, I think in my first video or second, I used it for tofu. I will teach you how to add this to noodle. I think someone requested 热干面. I think I could try that with this, I'm not sure. But extremely versatile thing that you can virtually add to pretty much anything. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks.